Hey everybody, I'm Zach. Welcome to Zach's Soapbox. This is the video for the week of Friday, May 23rd, 2025. Hope you're all doing well out there. Hope your week's going good. At the time I'm recording this, it was the first 100 day of the year here in Las Vegas. I'm recording this a few weeks in advance. As far as my hat goes, it's a Soviet Air Force General's cap from the Soviet Union. Hope you like it. That sort of thing. Anyways, man, let's get to it here. Today, I want to talk about something near and dear to my heart and kind of somewhat sentimental. Today, I'm going to talk about one of my favorite performers, favorite singers, favorite musicians, and music I listen to often. And I'm going to tie in some things with it, and it's kind of sentimental for me. It's been a big part of my life. And I'm going to talk about Ozfest. I'm going to talk about Ozzy Osbourne, and I'm going to talk about my deceased parents. And all rolled into one, and it's kind of a cathartic thing for me. Oz, he's got his final show coming up in his hometown of Birmingham, England, here July 5th, the day after the 4th of July. I hope they televise it or live stream it or something, or show it in theaters like they did the Ghost tour, so us fans that can't fly to England can see it. But anyway, I get so many memories from so many different Ozfest. I went to Ozfest every year from 1999 up to when they didn't have it anymore. The last one I went to was 2010. They had it, every year from 96 until 2008 annually. By 2008, it was only a destination festival, and they only had it like in Frisco, Texas or somewhere. But my first Ozfest was Ozfest. My mom's first Ozfest was Ozfest 97. Her and her boyfriend Wayne Wood went. They've both passed on now. But I had a young mom because my mom had me when she was 16. So by the time I'm 16, my mom's only 32. You know what I mean? So one thing, through all her faults, good, bad, or indifferent, one thing my mother did share with me is, music, and that's where I got my, interest in Black Sabbath, Ozzy Osbourne, Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, Van Halen, fucking Alice in Chains, even Blind Melon. I remember Mom listening to Blind Melon a lot, like in the late 90s. Um, the Stone Temple Pilots, shit like that, man. I remember Mom, always jamming Skinnerd. What I mean? So one thing I did share with my mom is like the like for music and concerts and things. My mom first Ozfest was in '97. My mom actually seen Ozzy, went to the Retirement Sucks tour during the Osmosis tour back in '95, the Retirement Sucks tour. But so one thing my mom always bonded over was music and Ozfest and that sort of thing. Like I turned my mom into Korn. I was listening to that album Follow the Leader with Ice Cube on it and Fred Durst. And I was listening to that song. I think it was that song Dead Bodies Everywhere. Dead Bodies Everywhere. Dead Bodies Everywhere, right? And Mom goes, let me borrow that. And I turned Mom on to Korn. And then Mom kind of turned me on to Godsmack back in the summer of 98 or 99 when the first Godsmack album come out. And then they were on Ozfest and Ozfest 99 that year. Ozfest 99, my first concert, it was a hell of a concert. It was Black Sabbath, all the original members, Tony Iommi, Geezer Butler, Bill Ward, and Oz. And Rob Zombie was doing Hellbilly Deluxe. The Deftones were on that one. Ozfest 99, that was Slipknot on the second stage. All 9 of them all masked up on that little stage out in the parking lot, Let's see, Slayer was on that one. But that was my first Ozfest. Then the following year, 2000, I met my father, and he wasn't a metalhead, he was a country guy. But one of the things him and I did, and one of the few things him and I went to together was Ozfest. He went with us. My second Ozfest was me, my mom, and my dad. And my dad was only 2 years older than my mom. So if I'm 15 in the year 2000, which means mom's 31 and dad had been 33. So they're not old parents at the time. Dad, being a country guy, he thought everything was too wild. Like Pantera was there, so imagine being like a country guy and you see fucking Pantera and there's fucking 3 different pits going on the lawn, and because Pantera opened for Ozzy that year. That was the one where Ozzy had that chair that came down with the water gun, and he was kind of going through the crowd and spraying, uh, that sort of thing. And but so no, and then like one of the last times I get to spend time with my dad was at Ozfest 2001, which was Black Sabbath, Marilyn Manson, Slipknot on the main stage, Papa Roach was on that one, Linkin Park was on that one, Zakk Wylde's Black Label Society was on that one. They opened the main stage that year. But so for me, just like going down and like listening, like being from around the Pittsburgh area and listening to DVE and you hear Crazy Train, and I always used to call it the All Aboard song, because I didn't know as a little boy, but I used to call it All Aboard, oh, it's the All Aboard song, because he goes all aboard, right? So one thing I will say about music is it can be the soundtrack of your life, and I never realized, because my mom, especially in the younger days, was a huge Ozzy fan, so it's kind of rubbed off on me. I actually wrote a letter to Ozzy's fan club and have an autographed picture from him that I still have and keep in a frame to this day. We were at Ozfest 2002, and I met Rob Zombie that year. I was holding up a sign, it said something like, Ozfest 2002, Ozzy, we love you, something like that. And Rob Zombie was getting ready to come out in the crowd, and he like come over to say hi to me, and then some chick jumped up on his back, and he threw her off, got all pissed off, and went back up on stage. But that was me, my mom, and my Aunt Tracy, who's also deceased now. But so these are good memories I'll always have, and John Underwood was there too. He was my aunt's boyfriend at the time. But so you'd be surprised how often music and things can create memories and create things, you know what I mean? So yeah, me and my mom didn't always get along, didn't always see eye to eye. And, and there were times where mom wasn't exactly the mother of the year. But I always remember smiling and laughing and singing. One year, man, we were at Ozfest 2002. Me and mom are trading lyrics back at Ozzy's up on stage, still when I don't want to change the world, Me and mom are trading lyrics back and forth and clapping and singing. And in fact, there's a picture on Facebook of me and my mother. We were at an Ozzy concert actually in 2010 from about, I guess it'd be 15 years ago now, when he was on the Scream tour, and me and mom drove up to Cleveland. Going up, it was nice, it was chilly because it was December in the Northeast. But then coming out, it was snowstorming like a motherfucker. Had it been like that on the way up, we probably would have ate that money and stayed home. But me and mom, man, we had a blast singing, Ozzy sounded good, he was kicking ass. That was back when Gus G was on guitar. On the fiddle was Father Zakk Wylde, likes to say. But anyways, man, what else, man? But no, man, like Ozfest 2000, man. I remember what I always liked about Ozfest too. I'd never seen so many boobies in all my life. Being a 15-year-old kid, that's great. But what else, man? I didn't really ever take any notes. I just wanted to speak from the heart and talk about how music, no matter what genre, no matter what type of music, can be kind of the soundtrack of our lives, and it can help create memories. There's something very powerful and very magical about music, There's something ritualistic and primal about music in and of itself. So the power of music and the power of a song, is something that, should never go overlooked. And I think, especially like, I think it's why people use theme songs in movies and, film and things like that. Let's see, what else? We were at Ozfest 2002, and me and mom are sitting there, jamming and talking, and because Rob Zombie's doing More Human Than Human, and I never understood the lyrics except for more human than human. So in between the more human than human part, I was just going blah 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 blah, more human than human, more human than human, right? And me and mom were cracking up laughing, and some dude comes through the crowd, and I'm turning my head and I'm talking to my Aunt Tracy, and some dude comes through the crowd and goes up to my mom and goes, "Hi, I'm Mike so-and-so. I work for Ozzy Osbourne. Ozzy wanted to give these to him," meaning me, and he hands my mom a bunch of guitar picks and drumsticks and all this stuff. And then I turn my head, and she goes, "Hey, Zach." I'm like, "What?" She goes, "That dude come up to me, and he just said he works for Ozzy, and he handed me all this stuff, like it was, Ozzy's drummer's drumsticks, which at the time was Mike Borden. John Tempesta was still in Rob Zombie's band, so it was his drumstick too. Black Label Society guitar picks, System of a Down guitar picks, and Ozzy Osbourne guitar picks. I had those for years and shit like that. And then, what else can I tell you? Ozfest 2004. That was a good one. That was Judas Priest, Black Sabbath, Slayer. Slipknot was on the second stage doing the third album, which would have been Subliminal Verses, the one with Duality and all that shit on it. That was a good tour. Let's see. In 2003 was Korn, Marilyn Manson doing Golden Age of Grotesque era, and that was Ozzy solo. And that was the year Ozzy had fucking braids in his hair like the dudes from Korn, so that was kind of cool. And Jason Newsted was on bass. I got to watch Jason Newsted with Ozzy. That was pretty cool, seeing Jason Newsted from Metallica play with Ozzy and shit. So, but I also then in turn have seen Robert Trujillo play with Ozzy too before he went and joined Metallica. So, anyway, let's see what shit. There's been so many memories, and like I said, I didn't write anything down. But I remember when Pantera played back in 2000, my dad, like I said, being mainly a country guy, never been really a metal show, fucking seen Pantera, and the fucking PA system was right, and like people were being carried out and shit like that, you know. And back then, Phil was like, man, if you're standing there, you're a fucking pussy, you know, get fucking moving, you know. And then like the one year at Ozfest 2004, he was with Superjoint, and they played the main stage, and that was back when I think Hank 3 was still in the band. And Phil was just like pissed off that year. Everybody was a fucking pussy. Worst fucking audience I ever played in front of. Oh, I had to punch you in the, you know, I don't know, whatever the fuck was wrong with him on that tour. He just was fucking, every city like he went to was like bitching. That was 2002, was Superjoint Ritual at the time, who now is just Superjoint, I think. And then, what else? Ozfest 2001, I met remember the Reverend B. Dangerous, the dude from Ozfest 2000. Remember the dude that fucking hung like a camcorder, one of the big heavy camcorders from like the early 2000s, late 90s, to his tongue and like swung it around and like fucking laid on glass and had somebody step on his head, and the dude that like had that shirt stapled to himself and then he tore it off and shit. I met that guy too. And the first thing I said to him is, how much do they pay you to do that shit? He goes, not enough, man, not enough. But I met Reverend B. Dangerous, and he gave me Joey Jordison's drumstick from Slipknot, because they were on the main stage that year in 2001, because Iowa was just getting ready to come out. Let's see. Ozfest 2010, man, I met John DeServio from Black Label Society, and I got to watch Black Label Society and all the second stage bands from like the side of the stage behind the buses. And me and Brian Altman were there, and we got to see the fucking whole second stage bands, including Drowning Pool. Oh, I met Drowning Pool that year too, in 2010. That was the year Ozfest only had like 6 dates, because Ozzy was doing a Scream tour and didn't want to do Ozfest for a whole summer if he was already on tour for the solo record. So it was only 6 dates, but one of the dates were Pittsburgh. And I met CJ Pierce from Drowning Pool and shit, and I met Ryan McCombs and Stevie Benton and stuff. Let's see, what else? Yeah, I've got plenty of, you know, Black Label guitar picks. In fact, I still have a guitar pick here on my dresser from when I went and seen Black Label at the Brooklyn Bowl here in Vegas when they were on tour with Anthrax a couple years ago. Actually, I just saw Zakk Wylde back in September at the Brooklyn Bowl doing a Black Sabbath gig. I'll be seeing him again this summer on the Pantera Celebration Tour. They're coming to T-Mobile here in August. So I'll be going to that. And then, I don't know, man. I just, you know, I just kind of wanted to say some good things about my mom, too. You know, my mom, well, she wasn't perfect and she wasn't great. No parents are, nobody is. One thing we always bonded over was music, and one thing she liked and I liked was music. So that was kind of our one thing that we, you know, even when she didn't like bands, I did. She just let me like my bands. I never had to live in a house where I couldn't own like a record with like swear words on it or a parental advisory sticker. Like one of the times I would get out is Mom takes you to FYE or Mom takes you to the record store and you get to new Marilyn Manson record, which was Hollywood. And I remember, I think my mom bought like an old Tim McGraw CD because my family listened to fucking everything. So mom bought a Tim McGraw CD, and I had bought Marilyn Manson's new CD, which at the time was Hollywood in the Valley of the Shadow of Death, the one with like Crucifixion in Space, the fight song, Disposable Teens, all that shit. And the guy's like, you guys have a pretty eclectic taste in music here. And I go, yeah, we're trying to hook up the Marilyn Manson and Tim McGraw tour. And everybody started laughing. But what else? Oh, shit, one year at Ozfest, cousin Josh was there, and he hooked me up with a vodka and orange juice. And then I met some dude at Ozfest, and he's like, hey, man, you want a beer? And I'm like, hell yeah, man, And so, mom being cool and mom being mom, she let you have a beer. And shit, one time I was hanging out with Josh was there. It was me, my mom, my dad, and Josh. And we're all fucking drinking vodkas and orange juices. And, I think the statute of limitations is up because this is over 20 years ago. But I was definitely, I looked old. Here, we'll say this. I looked old enough. I looked old enough. Anyway, I don't know, man. But no, I do miss that about my mom. Like, I'll hear a song, like, say, even that song, Long December by the Counting Crows. That was one of my mom's favorite songs back in, like, the late to mid-90s. Things like that. Where I'll hear, like, a Bush song or a Candlebox song, and it'll remind me of my mom. When my mom first died, my mom died back in September last year on Labor Day. And, because, Ozzy and everything, because I remember even being a kid, and mom would have Ozzy on in the car, and, I don't know, man, it's just one of the things where that's one of the few things we had in common, and all of our differences, and all of somebody's faults and transgressions. I can't say she was a mom that didn't let you express yourself, or didn't. My mom never yelled at me for anything I ever wrote. Even some of the most darkest poetry I've ever written. My mom never yelled at me for it. My mom never. Whereas, like, say, some of my other relatives, I got to answer questions as to why I write like that, or why I wrote this, or why I wrote that. But my mom never made me apologize. One thing I would say about my mom is my mom let me be me. You know what I mean? Sure, she wanted me to do certain things, and stuff like that. Every parent wants what they feel is best for their child. But for the most part, my mom let me be me and let me live my life. And my mom, while I could say, there were times that she should have been there when she wasn't, she also let me be me in a sense that I don't have that sense of learned helplessness. And I don't have a sense of, like, entitlement. Like, where's my parents? I need my parents. I don't need my parents. And I don't need my family. You know what I mean? But one thing I will say about my mom is I think what she was doing was trying to raise me to be strong. Because eventually, I think she knew in a way that eventually I'd just be on my own. You know what I mean? Through all her transgressions, I can't say I hate her. I can't say that. I mean, do I wish some things were different? Of course, but the past is the past. And every past mistake and everything is a learning experience, And, as Friedrich Nietzsche once said, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And I guess that's pretty goddamn true, So, I don't know, man. I guess this is a tribute to Oz and his final show, and, what his music has meant to me, and also, like, a kind of a quasi-tribute to my deceased parents, because, like, actually, the Ozfest thing, that's one of the few things me and my dad did, because I only met my dad about 18 months before he died. So I didn't really, because it was one case where my father knew he was going to pass away, and then, so what he did, well, I want to meet him before I pass. So, we hooked it up and everything like that, and then he died only about 15 months after I met him. So I didn't really get to spend that much time with him. And then when I met him later in his life, he, the sickness and illness was already kind of taking a hold of him. So you're not really meeting your dad. You're meeting someone who's sick and been sick for years and has issues and this sort of stuff. So, anyways, coming up on 20 minutes here. What else, man? Anything else? No, man, I just remember, and then you try to go to Mayhem, but Mayhem, even though a lot of the Mayhem was basically almost Ozzfest light, because your first Mayhem festival was Disturbed and Slipknot, who were always Ozzfest staples. Then your second Mayhem was like Slayer and Marilyn Manson. Again, Ozzfest light. And to me, the Mayhem Festival never replaced Ozfest. Ozfest had the Village of the Damned, where you didn't even have to go for the music. You can go to almost like amusement park. They had like a rock climbing wall and shit, a place where you can get fucking your tits painted, a place where you can get a tattoo, piercing at Ozfest, fucking, But for its time period, its day, Ozfest was the shit, and nothing has ever really replaced it. So, I don't know, man, but that's just what I wanted to say, man. I'll be jamming Ozzy till the day I die, man. So, all right, I'm out.